All right. In our last break, it looks like somebody was tampering with our microphones, in which that happens quite a bit. And Tom gets it. Tom Althouse gets it quite a bit, where they mess with the computers, with the audio, and also the video portions. And you can see I get cutouts on Zoom, and they can't figure it out. I've been having technicians working on this Zoom problem for the last month and a half. Even my Spectrum people.
The best thing to do, Dave, is I believe too, is just to address what they do is they're pointing a big arrow at the topic they didn't want talked about.
Right.
And I was talking about how they cut feeds,
right,
and they shadow ban and cut feeds when they don't like a topic, and they just did. They just did that for us and showed it. It's really stupid to do it, just like raiding Trump's house.
Right. Well,
so what I want to share,
I want to tell people that we're back on the second segment on, and we're being syndicated through WODY. My buddy Eddie Carson, OdysseyRadio.live out of Maryland. And also this is the Dave and Tom show. Dave Emmons show is not, this is not the Dave Emmons show. This is the Dave and Tom show now. So we're covering topics in which we're being messed with on computers. So Tom, can you kind of remember what happened before?
Yeah, let's recap it. Let's recap.
Right. Okay.
So for audiences too, Dave, I think it's important to establish, this is what they're most concerned about. They're so stupid. What the FBI and CIA do, and Pentagon, they'll point arrows at the content they're afraid of by cutting the feeds. It's like Forrest Gump when he's making his Vietnam speech and they pull the plug.
Right.
The guy general pulls the plug. It's exactly what's happening right here. That's what they do. So let's recap. What got them so upset that they had to interrupt and pull this thing? Like I just said, how the mailbox was sealed with resin on Friday, which means Saturday and Sunday I can't do anything about it. And important information is coming through all the time. And so what I was talking about, I was saying how states like Mexico and others, if a leader in Mexico, let's say if they cut it again, they don't want this said. So if a Mexican leader is actually, they probably won't now, if he says, I want to stop child trafficking, I want to help do my part in my country to stop the traffic flow, it is the FBI and the CIA and the Pentagon that's going to hammer him and keep the machine of child trafficking well lubricated in oil and going. And that's what they were trying to cut and not have said. So it's actually our own country, along with England and Russia, that is allowing this traffic to continue, this child trafficking in other countries. They're the laundering machines, China, Pakistan, Mexico. And so what our country does is if some leader suddenly decides to be, compassionate, make a difference in his country to try to stop the flow of child trafficking, which is so important, the FBI, CIA step in and destabilize that person. This is exactly what happened in Ukraine.
So why do you think the Mexican authorities are sending troops now to the Mexican border as we speak? And they're there to fight the gangs, they said. But would there be other purposes for this?
I think the Mexican authorities are actually trying to do the right thing, and it's going to piss off the FBI and CIA. Like Brian Fitzpatrick, congressman of Pennsylvania, who handles my sister and gives her black tie dinners and awards and everything, if she'll bring down her brother, the author, who wrote the Matrix story. So it's like they don't want the influence of writers like ourselves getting out there. That's why they disrupt your program.
Right.
But and I think Mexico's trying to do the right thing, and the CIA and FBI in this country, the Pentagon, and the Hawks are not going to have it. They don't want their profiting machine disrupted, just like they don't want authors actually getting credit for their work. Brian Fitzpatrick, that Pennsylvania congressman who actually controls my sister, so made her into a monster, just vicious, is giving her all kinds of rewards. And it says that he uses intellectual property in a way to destabilize targets. And it was the Ukraine that he was assigned to. FBI is not supposed to go on foreign soil. Right. So he wrote a cover article in that Philadelphia Inquirer. I think I showed you that. Did I show you the Fitzpatrick Philadelphia Inquirer?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So in that article, it spells out very clearly. That's a cover article where they're trying to spin everything to make it look like it's good. They say FBI is not supposed to be on foreign soil, but they're sending him as anti-corruption department. What? Along with Trudeau's guy. What? To destroy Shokin, the Attorney General, Victor Shokin, who's trying to stabilize Ukraine and get rid of corruption. And so it's Biden that says too, along with Fitzpatrick's group, Ukraine, you will not get millions in aid if Shokin doesn't go. You got to get rid of him. Well, he's the man and one of the men that are actually keeping Ukraine as a sovereign nation and in good order. So they disrupt their legal systems. They disrupt their military. In fact, Pat Robertson, the televangelist Pat Robertson, that was the big bane in my life, he works with Fitzpatrick. And what he did was he formed the Law and Justice Center. Again, what an oxymoron. Right. It sends his attorneys, Jay Sekulow, his head guy, is a failed insurance fraud salesman. Insurance fraud.
Jay Sekulow?
He's a
Doesn't he work with
fraud
Trump?
salesman.
He worked with Trump, didn't he?
Of course, he became his personal attorney through Pat Robertson. So Pat Robertson could control Trump. And so now Trump, when they raided his home, they busted Trump out. Now they woke the sleeping giant, like I said. So I'm surprised we're even be able to talk about this right now, because the FBI wouldn't want this talked about.
I know the people out there, Tom, they need to hear, and I've had other people tell me, I've been getting comments about the show that we're doing. They said this needs to get out there because people don't understand it. They're just working and doing their own thing. And right now we're fighting for survival. Everybody is high prices, gasoline, and crime. That's how they're throwing smoke screens or smoke bombs, as you say, around us, so we don't see any of this. But it's been proven. And I got a political, Michael Crawley, foreign affairs correspondent, has a story here. I'll read it, and it's involved in our in Washington D.C. The Deep State and Cabal. The Cabal is kind of like they're on top, and the Deep State's underneath, and they communicate with each other, and they tell the politicians what to do. Here's something that that was brought up by Politico, Michael Crawley, foreign affairs. He was talking, of course, about the Obama era. CIA Director John Brennan remarked that the executive branch officials have an obligation to refuse to carry out outrageous anti-democratic orders from President Trump. That means he's saying disobey Trump entirely. That's what Obama's CIA was doing. Rush Limbaugh caught that comment, and he must have found the story, and he said it was short of a threat to our republic. And so there's a lot of embeds at the Pentagon, State Department, various intel agencies. Deep State entered into American discourse in 2017. Of course, they've been involved for a long time, but it was opened up, communications. I think Trump brought that on. So what do you think about all that?
Well, this is interesting. It correlates completely. This gentleman's thing completely correlates with what happened at Robertson's organization, Pat Robertson's organization. Keep in mind that Pat Robertson met with George Bush, when he was president, before he started the Endless War. The Endless War was Robertson's plan also, and the Cabal's plan, to suspend the rights of citizens in our country, just as Hitler did in World War II, Germany, under Prescott Bush's influence also. So what happened, his grandfather. So what's happening is you had this situation where at the conference center at Robertson's organization, they had this meeting there among top-level constituents from Washington. And he said it's the responsibility of every senator and congressman to block everything Trump does. Any bill, any measure, block it, block it, block it. Right. Carte blanche, nothing. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. That correlates with Robertson using his Law and Justice Center with Bush to appoint judges such as Judge Gary Klausner, who was appointed to California to throw our situation in our case. So Robertson says that he won't be a second-class citizen anymore. He says that it needs to be more decisions, and then he flips it into the idea of against liberal rulings or more conservative ones, not based on evidence, just to have more on the body count. So you have more for him, so he's not a second-class citizen, his own goals.
Right.
You're going to throw cases such as mine by providing attorneys that have suspended license and harass to death the families and kill and murder even the sons. And that's how they're going to get their way. They're brown shirts from World War II.
Well, that's what they call Republicans. I've heard that there's people calling, the left is calling the Republicans, the conservatives, they call us the brown shirts.
Now they are. Yeah, now they are. What they do is switch. They're parrots. They rebrand whatever we say and then use it on us. It's insane the tactics they use. Like the thing that happened with my mailbox where they just put resin on it where I can't use the key. Yeah, that's annoyance. That's ground teams doing that because they're desperate and they're trying to disrupt any way they can. Meanwhile, my sister's calling my mom, who's terminally ill, screaming and raging for her not to identify with me, or she'll never see the grandchildren. This is how they work, and it's like this idea where they'll say this: "You did it yourself." That's their call. That they say. They go, "Well, you did it yourself." They'll put people in 911 dispatchers. They'll put people in positions in the chief of police that they train at the FBI Academy in Quantico to do whatever they want, to be called upon when they need on the targets. And these are articulate.
Those are assets, as you call them, right?
That's right. And keep in mind that Russia, what did Russia do? What was the big crimes of Russia during Stalin's time? One of the big crimes? They started to use psychiatric wards as gulags. Instead of sending the people to the Siberia, they started sending them to psychiatric wards. So your gifted people that were very professors, articulate inventors, were sent to psych wards. That's exactly what they're doing in our country now with these false 302s, where family members are bought very well. And they're given all these rewards and titles like Fitzpatrick holding my sister up on the floor of Congress that she's some national treasure after a failed 302, where they're trying to put us away in the criminally insane because they're getting family members to say, oh yeah, he calls me all the time and says he's suicidal, I'm going to shoot somebody. Well, that's interesting. The last people you ever call in the world are claiming you're calling them all the time. And on that basis, they're hauling you off with SWAT teams. This is insane what's going on in our country right now.
Right.
And they're doing the Russian model.
There are media that's covering this, just like I mentioned, Political and Breitbart did this one here. There is a cabal that operates independently of elected officials. Deep State are in Algeria, Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, and they're a security state, and that means that they're a dictatorship. Snowden, the famous spy, he said that the government is sure. He is really sure that there's definitely a deep state. And Breitbart said this, the news agency Breitbart. So we're using names here. We're not. It's just not us. I'm getting this from actually the UPI website. I'm getting this information from them. So this backs it up. It's just not us. They just can't put our name on this. We've got people, if you listen to them out there, Breitbart and Political and some real legitimate places, and they're saying that these deep states, we just talked about this earlier, they team up with the fake news, and they're all together in what they're doing. They try to influence the presidents from the deep, dark shadows.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting because I got people contacting me, part of got the documentary team. We got different people that are working very hard with research and things like this. And the phrase that's starting to be kind of initialized is the man who brought down the FBI. I am honored to be told that Tom is bringing down the FBI. That's something that I would love to be my legacy, to dismantle one of the cruelest, most vicious organizations, arms of the cabal. That'd be wonderful. And now it's interesting that Trump is saying the very thing after the home was raided. He knows our situation, particularly my family, bloodlines and stuff. He knows what's going on. And so now he's echoing the very phrase I used. He's saying, we need to dismantle the FBI. That's a compliment. He's using the exact phrase that I've coined and said.
Increase the police, but downgrade the FBI. Yeah.
We got to dismantle the FBI. We need something different. That is actually, it's a diseased organization that is out for profit and is involved in child trafficking and everything else, is using surveillance on its own citizens. And it's interesting because Snowden is actually part of that whole process.
Right.
What they want is people they can that influence us as if they're on our side. But these guys, the way you can tell, they're actually talking heads in position for the other side not to lose control. See, they don't want to lose control, so they'll have people like Snowden, what a name, saying like, oh, I'm going to tell you information. He doesn't really tell us anything.
Yeah. Well, Julian Assange is also, they're after him because he was doing the same thing. He was actually trying to tell people what's really going on. And the people that don't want you to know certain things are stopping all this. And it looks like to me that people need to listen up a little bit, but you have to read deep into this. It's just like we're getting deep into this. You're going from the politicians, deep state, in which they have direct control, and then from the deep state to cabal has an overall control. They're the umbrella group for all this, and you got people like Soros and all the billionaires that are involved in supporting these types of groups, especially Soros, and the fake news. We know what they're doing. You see things quite obvious in the street, and then the news turns around and says, oh, it's nice out here. They're just protesting and buildings are on fire in behind the reporter. That was CNN. Right. Let me take you now to some, not just nationally, but this is state-wise. There's a report, and this I got off the internet, and it's a Rasmussen and then Breitbart. Also, I got this all from them. There's an Itasca project in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Twin Cities, okay? And they're powerful people in Minnesota. They're not elected, 13 men, Twin Cities, secret cabal, okay? They advertise as they're working as a team, and they're trying to improve the situation in Minnesota and everything, but we know how that is. Look where all the violent riots and all the shootings started. Actually, Minnesota was one of them. And Minneapolis was one of them, and the police defunding is very effective there. And they did that. This team here has been working on that. They're involved in policies, and that's the police defunding. They're involved in education, communications, agriculture, and reducing political influence. So they're trying to take the power from the elected people, and they're trying to control from their money and from their cabal status. Hence, control of the democratic leaders, police, defunding crime, and the division of the people. That's what they're doing.
Well, see, you raised something very, very important here. There's a real battle going on for the hearts and minds of the police. What's going on right now is the police are being used. If you own the police, you can do a lot of harm. If your FBI is supposed to protect intellectual property and you actually work against the authors for the studios, you make a fortune. The police the same way. The FBI controls the police. They train the chief of police and sent them from Quantico. All you need is a high school equivalency to be selected. You have to be selected. And then you're sent out there to be called upon, and you're given a lot of rewards. Warrington Township, they had just a podunk little thing that's shared with the Parks Recreation Department, this little tiny office. Now they got this multi-million-dollar spread of offices with holding cells and hotel accommodations for FBI agents even, and psych ward in it too. And they're just bragging about it. So they got all these awards, SWAT team, helicopters. All Warrington Township in Pennsylvania deals with really is shoplifters. So why do they have all this reward after they tried the 302 attempts on me? And so what's going on is you've got this incredible thing where we need to put people in position, an organization where the police are actually encouraged to do the right thing. Right now, they're being pushed to do the wrong thing or you lose your job. And so it's amazing that it's like the Gold Cloaks in Game of Thrones. We need to have police freed up to do good. Right now, they're under stress and duress to do wrong. And often they give in, like the ones that came into the SWAT team work on me, telling neighbors, you better get inside. You don't want to see this, which means blood's going to be drawn. Right. Like why come to a writer who's with his son and elderly parents caretaking them, and you got automatic weapons, body armor, body cams, dressed like Navy SEALs like you're in a movie. They got really dressed up, like Braveheart says. They didn't want to get dressed up for nothing. And they're telling neighbors, you better get inside. What? Haul off a writer for what? Oh, well, because somebody said you're suicidal and dangerous and going to kill somebody, that you said you're going to do that. I didn't. Doesn't matter. They said you did, so we're going to haul you off.
Well, now they got the snitch program that'll go nationwide. And if you're a hunter, if you go out hunting, somebody could just snitch on you and say, hey, he's misusing his gun. And then all of a sudden you got these extra IRS agents. That's what their purpose is. They're armed and they're going to the doors and they're knocking on the doors with a warrant to take your weapons. There goes the Second Amendment. That's now, Trump is fighting for his Fourth Amendment rights, and the First Amendment rights have been taken away from us from all this woke policy junk, in which a lot of people, even in Hollywood, are getting tired of that woke stuff because the comedians can't even talk on stage anymore. So they're getting fed up with it. So somewhere along the line, just like you said earlier, it's going to snap. Things are
that's the thing, Dave. The only, like the operatives that I worked with, right, and the Masons and things like this, what'd they tell me from CIA, Lauren Holmberg and others from CIA? What'd they tell me? They told me straight out. They said there's no pancake theory, anything like that. The only ones that could hit our World Trade Centers and other things like that is the FBI and CIA. Yep. It was Bush's relative that did the security work and went through it. It's like it was Greenspan or whatever that took out the insurance policy on terrorism just before it happened. Come on, it's so obvious. And so they're saying that it's obvious. They think the public's stupid. They don't get it. But that's the thing. These guys from there, we got to end this war on terror. We got to end this whole idea. It's a myth. It's a fabrication. It's not happening. We're the superpower in this world with England and Russia. We're the superpowers in this world. And so what's going on is we are supposed to create this myth, this endless war. That was Pat Robertson's idea too. Create an endless war. We've got to declare peace and end this stupid endless war.
Right.
Stop it now so we can get our rights back. What we're focusing on is end the stupid wars, keep our military safe, and let's reestablish our rights as a nation for our citizenry. Let's get it back. Let's say no more to wars. Right. No more. There is no wars. It's fabricated by the CIA, FBI, and the Pentagon in order to take away our rights. Let's stop having our rights.
That's in my book that's going to be released, Senseless Wars and Conflicts. I've got all that in there. And I'm a combat veteran. I don't want to, I think about these people in Ukraine and Russia, even Russia, 70,000 troops lost. Can you imagine? And then, and of course, Ukraine, I think 30,000 troops have lost. So they've kind of got an edge there. But the carnage continues, even though the cities are leveled. And this is a nightmare.
We put a leader in place that's an actor. We went over there to stabilize their whole system. So they were trying, like I said about that Mexican idea, where they're trying to, maybe they're trying to get rid of the corruption and the child trafficking. That's what's happening in Ukraine with Shokin, Victor Shokin and the others. And so what happens? Fitzpatrick for the FBI, along with Canadian Trudeau's guy, Baxter, go over there and destroy his career.
Right.
And Biden was involved in that to destroy his career. It was Trump that said he was a good attorney general. So we disrupt their infrastructure and make it into a thug state. And then we have the audacity, the CIA and FBI and Pentagon, to say, oh, those poor people in Ukraine, you're the ones making it hell for them. You're the ones that experimented on them, have tortured them and treated them like dirt when they're beautiful people and beautiful children and beautiful elderly people. We're the ones that did it. And then we go, oh, those poor people. No, we should be having a huge apology to the Ukraine and the rest of the world for destabilizing it on behalf of a one world order, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and the rest.
Right. They were mentioned in this article too, as in the cabal. What we're looking at too is that they're continuing dividing us. It's racially, economically, and also ideology wise. They really got a wide choice to go by. And if you don't listen to what they say, then you're a racist. It doesn't matter if you're not even talking about anything about race. And then and also in this gender stuff, all these crazy ideas that's coming out. Can't people see that we're heading in the, most people, 72% of the people say we're heading in the wrong direction.
Yes, we are. There's a wonderful scene in Game of Thrones. I got to give it to them. Game of Thrones has a wonderful scene. You got the two daughters of the Winterfell, right? The two daughters. And you've got this Littlefinger who's been playing everybody against each other, doing the intrigue like the CIA, FBI and CIA, Pentagon is Littlefinger.
Right.
And you've got the two daughters as if the one's going to have the other one executed. And then they turn to the Littlefinger and go, like they're saying treason and all this stuff. Then they turn to Littlefinger, FBI, CIA, and say, how do you respond? He's like, wait, I'm confused. And they go, what charges are you confused about? That's exactly what we need to do as a nation, as a body, as a people. Let's show the rest of the world that we're going to stop accusing each other and turn to the FBI and CIA and Pentagon and say, what about treason charges on you guys? What about it? We're not debating amongst ourselves anymore. No. Look them in the eye. They call it facing them down and say, what do you respond to these charges, you guys, FBI, CIA, crimes?
I'm not so darn sure, Tom, that even if we change the House to Republican majority and the Senate, the Republicans are chickens. They don't fight. The deep state is in charge.
Trump's waiting for us to succeed. Until they raided his home, Trump is waiting for us to succeed. It's like we're the little guys having to survive a maelstrom. And it's like what's happening is, but this is the answer. If we turn, and they said that what I did was dared to face them down. That's why I lost my sons. Well, okay. It's like we're holding the flag and we're on the ramparts and we're still charging at the forts. And it's like, let's all charge together. Let's put the FBI and CIA and Pentagon on trial. And let's say to the rest of the world, we are going to solve this problem. Let's stop debating amongst ourselves and look at the real problem. It's right in our own home. It's right in our own country. The problem is our entire world.
The FBI, Wray and Garland at the DOJ, they're saying the right-wing conservatives, the extreme right, they call us, the white supremacists, we're the ones trying to start the Civil War.
No, there's no Civil War at all. We just want them to resign and dismantle and get out of business. We want them to stop being a problem to the world. They have no business sending their agents and operatives to foreign soil. They have no business buying off family members and rewarding them lavishly and turning them into monsters. They have no business being FBI and a congressman. You can't do that. That goes against what the founding fathers set up. Enough of this circus, enough of Warner Brothers and Disney owning multiple corporations. That's mega monopolies. We got to get rid of the mega monopolies. We got to make a money system back to the people where it's gold standard backed. We've got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. We've got to get rid of the FBI and CIA and start over. Let's rebuild and show the world that we're not going to be bullies anymore on the block and blame everybody else for what we're doing.
And right now, the right, the red states are fighting back with their comments about us starting a civil war and calling us, just troublemakers. Here's a Congressman, Steve King. I'm using names. He said the red states have trillions of bullets, so they better not mess with us. So that's kind of like in your face. Victor David Hansen, he's on TV a lot. He thinks that we're heading into a lot of trouble in the Civil War. He said the red states are in the middle and the blue states are on both coasts. And he said that's going to be the divide that we have. Rasmussen reports 31% of the people say civil war is likely in the next 5 years. I think it might be quicker than that.
It will be if they get their, the cabal gets their way. What we need, Dave, is we need to actually not have a civil war.
Right.
Dismantle the FBI, dismantle the CIA, and put them on trial for war crimes all across the world. Publicize it all across the world. Let's show that we can handle criminals who have organizations that have been involved in child trafficking, intellectual property, ripoff, poppy fields, and you name it. It's time to end this era of terror. The terrorists are the CIA and the FBI.
Right.
Time to end this
shenanigans. And you know what? Other countries said they would follow us if we stood up and got our democracy back, and we got God and the Constitution back. I mean, you can believe in God or not, but God has been a basis. I got a story about George Washington being around angels, and it's a really doozy. But they're saying that there's similar attitudes now in which we had in 1860 that brought the Civil War. And the inability to find the middle ground, they said, was a big problem with the federal government.
That's when the gold standard was taken away. Yeah. We need to do this. It's like a peaceful change where we get rid of the FBI and the CIA peacefully, put them on trial for war crimes. We can do it. We need to do it. We need to stop funding them, cut their funding, and also cut Robertson's funding. Pat Robertson is a big leader in the cabal. Yes, he's older. We think he's a clown, but he is a big leader involved in a lot of horror and a lot of crime. We need to cut his funding. No tax exemption for these evangelists anymore. They're not evangelists, they're profiteers. And what we need to do is also televangelists, and we need to get rid of stop the funding for the CIA and FBI. There's your peaceful change. We're not going to have a civil war. That's what they want us to do.
That's what we don't want blood. We don't want blood. Trump doesn't either. I'm sure there's been the bikers are behind Trump. He's got the biker president that goes with him everywhere. I'm sure they're all waiting for some kind of a signal from Trump, but Trump wants to be peaceful. So do we. I don't want no blood. I've been in combat. Closing words. We're down to the last minute. Tom, what do you got to say?
Well, I'll say watch what happens in my situation too, and people like myself, like us. What's going to happen is I've been told over and over, and I've text after text of these inside cabal contacts saying the FBI is going to come get you now. They're going to haul you off. They're pissed at you. Well, too bad. They're guilty of a lot of things. So if I get hauled off, just know it wasn't for anything I did wrong. I didn't call my sister. I didn't say anything bad. I'm not going to hurt anybody. You hear it here. I love life. I love my son. They're going to try to rip me away, they're saying. And
my family's afraid of me talking about this stuff too, but I told them I'm using names. I'm using, I'm looking up, putting names behind all these stories. So it's just not us talking.
We're holding the flag in the middle of a battle, a peaceful battle. We're holding that flag up saying, come together, let's change this. Mark my words, if the FBI and CIA are dismantled, the Pentagon put back under proper control, you'll have peace on the world. You can have peace.
Okay, I guess we need to close by saying we hope that people listen to this, look up the information yourself, look at these news agencies, and try to piece together what you think about the deep state and the cabal. And co-host Tom Althouse and myself, Dave Emmons, we're happy that you've been here with us. We're syndicating through WODY Radio. That's Eddie Carson, and that's odysseyradio.live. And I got that right. I got it wrong last time. Eddie pointed that out to me. So, okay, we make mistakes here, but did you see that when we brought it up about the microphone thing, it stopped?
There you go. That's right. They want to do it again. They don't want to do it again. But that was obviously a hit on it because, we were talking about something they don't
we'll have another show next week, people, and we're going to bring up new current events and we'll talk about them. So have a good day, good night. Hope you watch this show. And for Tom and I both, goodbye.